Princess Liana stood at the edge of the high balcony, her long silver hair catching the sunlight like threads of metal. The city of Varion stretched below her, a labyrinth of shining crystal towers and bustling streets. She loved her planet deeply, but she hated its rules. Every decision, every action, every word had to follow the Council's strict laws. And she had broken one of those laws, again. "Liana," a voice called, soft but firm. It was her personal aide, a small and quiet creature named Terrell. "The Council awaits you." Liana turned slowly, her violet eyes burning with anger. "I know," she said, her voice low. "I do not need a reminder." Terrell tilted his head. "It is more than a reminder. The Council has made a decision. You must comply." Liana's heart sank. She had known this moment was coming, but she had hoped, foolishly, that the Council might show mercy. "I will comply," she said, though the word tasted bitter in her mouth. The Council chamber was a vast hall of light and crystal. High above, sunlight poured through the glass-like ceiling, casting rainbow patterns on the polished floor. Liana's parents, the king and queen, sat at the head of the chamber, their faces calm but stern. Surrounding them were the council members, their eyes sharp and unyielding. "Princess Liana," the council leader began, his voice echoing in the hall, "your repeated defiance has brought shame upon our people. You have mocked our traditions, ignored our laws, and endangered your own position." Liana's jaw tightened. She had expected this, yet the words stung. "And what punishment do you choose?" she asked, her voice steady despite the anger in her chest. The council leader paused, letting the tension fill the room. "You are to be married to a human." A hush fell over the chamber. Liana's eyes widened. "A human?" she exclaimed, unable to hide her shock. "You cannot be serious." "We are serious," the council leader replied, his tone final. "Humans are unpredictable. They are considered inferior by our scholars. Marrying one will remind you of humility. You will leave your palace and your comforts. You will serve this human. This is your punishment." Liana felt as if the floor had vanished beneath her. She had heard stories of humans before, small, untrained, reckless creatures from a distant star system. They were feared by very few and underestimated by many, but forced to marry one? She could not imagine anything more humiliating. Her father spoke, his voice gentle but firm. "Liana, this is not just punishment. It is a test. If you can survive among humans, you may return with wisdom greater than what our council can teach you." Liana clenched her fists. Wisdom? She did not need wisdom. She needed freedom. "This is absurd," she said. "I will not marry a human." "You will," her mother said quietly, her eyes sad. "Your choices are limited. This is the only way you will learn the lesson you need." Liana knew arguing would be useless. The council's word was law, and her parents would not oppose them. She bowed her head, hiding the fury in her heart. "Very well," she said. "I will go." The journey to meet her human was long. She was escorted to a starship waiting at the palace docks. The ship was sleek, metallic, and far smaller than the palace she had left behind. Humans preferred simple designs, functional rather than decorative. Liana looked at it with disdain. The ship's doors opened, and standing inside was a man. He was taller than most humans she had imagined, with broad shoulders and strong hands. His hair was dark, his eyes a deep brown, and his face calm, almost serene. "Princess Liana?" he asked, his voice steady and polite. Liana narrowed her eyes. "I am, and you are?" "Daniel Harris," he said, bowing slightly. "I will escort you to the human outpost for the ceremony." Liana's lips pressed into a thin line. She had expected someone crude or rough, perhaps even fearful. This man was neither. He stood with confidence but without arrogance, a quiet strength in every gesture. She felt a flicker of doubt. Could humans truly be as weak as her world believed? The journey began. The starship moved swiftly through the atmosphere, leaving the crystalline towers of Varion behind. Liana watched the planet shrink below her, her thoughts a storm of anger and uncertainty. Daniel spoke quietly. "I know this situation is difficult. I will not force anything upon you. My goal is to make this journey safe and respectful." Liana blinked. Respectful? She had expected insults or mockery. Instead, this human offered courtesy. She felt a strange, unfamiliar feeling, annoyance mixed with curiosity. Hours passed. The stars stretched endlessly outside the ship's window, silent and cold. Liana tried to remain distant, arms crossed, eyes fixed on the endless void. Daniel remained quiet, occasionally checking the ship's systems or plotting their route. A sudden jolt shook the ship. Liana gasped as the warning lights flashed red. "What is happening?" she demanded. Daniel's hands moved over the controls with precision. "A meteor field. Small but dangerous. We'll navigate through carefully." Liana watched in amazement as he guided the ship with calm skill. Every movement was deliberate, every decision thoughtful. Within moments, the danger passed and the ship stabilized. You handled that well," Liana said, trying to hide the awe in her voice. Daniel smiled faintly. "It's what humans do. We adapt, we plan, we act." Liana looked away, suddenly embarrassed. Humans were supposed to be weak, foolish, and uncultured. Yet this man had just saved her life. And he had done it with a quiet strength that made her chest tighten with something she could not name. The rest of the journey passed in tense silence. Liana tried to remind herself of the Council's decree. This was punishment, a humiliation. She could not allow herself to respect this human, no matter how capable he was. Finally, the distant lights of the human outpost appeared on the horizon. Small, functional, surrounded by metal walls and docking bays, it was far from the luxurious comfort of her palace. She felt a pang of resentment and fear. Daniel's voice broke the silence. "We'll land shortly. I'll make sure you are comfortable and safe." Liana's jaw tightened. Comfort was relative, she thought bitterly. She had little desire for comfort from a human. Yet as the ship descended and touched the landing platform with a soft hum, Liana felt a flutter of curiosity. Who was this human really? Could he be truly as weak as everyone said? Or was there more to him than she realized? She did not yet know that her journey was only beginning, that the lessons she would learn from this human would challenge everything she believed about strength, courage, and even herself. For now, she simply followed Daniel down the ship's ramp, her eyes sharp, her mind wary, and her heart unwillingly alert. The punishment had begun. But neither Liana nor Daniel could guess how much it would change them both. The human outpost was small but well organized. Metal walls surrounded a landing bay where ships from distant star systems came and went. Liana stepped carefully onto the platform, her silver hair gleaming under the artificial lights. She kept her posture perfect, showing no weakness, but her violet eyes scanned every detail of this strange human place. Daniel walked beside her, calm and confident, yet careful not to crowd her. "Welcome," he said simply. "This is our temporary home while we prepare for the ceremony." Liana raised an eyebrow. "Temporary?" she asked, her voice sharp. "How long do you expect me to stay in this place?" Daniel smiled faintly. "Long enough for you to understand humans better, and long enough for the Council to know you have learned humility." Humility. The word grated on her ears. She did not need humility, she needed freedom. And yet the more she looked at this human, the more she noticed something she could not ignore. He radiated calm authority, without demanding obedience. She felt her pride stir uneasily. Inside the outpost, Liana was shown to a modest room. No crystal chandeliers, no polished floors, just a small bed, a table, and a view of the metal landing bay. She wanted to complain, but the exhaustion from travel held her tongue. Daniel stood at the doorway. "I'll be nearby if you need anything. The journey continues tomorrow. We must traverse several uncharted sectors to reach the final location." Liana huffed, trying to mask her curiosity. "I will manage." The next morning, they boarded a smaller scout ship for the journey through space. The sectors ahead were uncharted, filled with meteor showers, rogue asteroids, and strange gravitational anomalies. It was dangerous territory, and Liana's heart thumped with both fear and fascination. Daniel piloted the ship with skill. Every movement was precise, every decision deliberate. When a sudden asteroid storm appeared on the sensors, he calmly adjusted their trajectory. Liana watched, unable to look away as he guided them through the chaos with ease. How do you do that?" she asked, voice trembling slightly. "It's what humans do," Daniel said simply. "We adapt. We calculate. We act." Liana stared at him. His hands moved confidently over the controls, his focus complete. He was not merely surviving. He was controlling the situation. A small part of her mind, the part that she refused to admit, began to wonder if humans were truly as weak as her world claimed. Hours passed, and the asteroid field cleared. Liana leaned back in her seat, trying to calm her racing thoughts. She had been expecting chaos, fear, even clumsiness. Instead, she saw a human handling every challenge with skill, intelligence, and patience. Later, they stopped at a small space station to refuel. The station was bustling with aliens of different species, traders, and explorers. Liana had never felt so small in her life. The aliens here whispered and stared, clearly curious about the human escorting of Aaron. The human scout ship glided through space, leaving behind the storm-scorched sector. Inside, silence hung heavy. Liana sat with her arms crossed, her violet eyes focused on the endless void. Daniel worked quietly at the controls, his calm presence filling the small cabin. The silence was not peaceful. It was thick with unspoken words. Liana's mind replayed the moment of his touch, when his hand had steadied her during the storm. The memory bothered her more than the storm itself. She was not supposed to feel anything from a human's touch, yet she had. Finally, she broke the silence. "You presume too much." Daniel turned slightly, his brow raised. "How so? You think a single act of protection means you have earned my respect?" Her words were sharp, but inside she felt unsure. Daniel did not argue. He simply said, "Respect isn't demanded. It's earned over time." Liana clenched her fists. His calm answers only unsettled her more. On Varion, no one dared speak to her this way. She was royalty, a princess. But this human, this so-called punishment, spoke to her as if they were equals. And worse, part of her did not hate it. The next day, they landed on a neutral trading moon to gather supplies. The marketplace was vast, filled with alien merchants, glowing stalls, and strange foods. Liana walked beside Daniel, her posture regal, her eyes scanning everything. Whispers followed them. An alien princess walking with a human was unusual, even scandalous. Some stared in open disbelief. Liana felt heat rise in her cheeks, but Daniel walked as if the stares did not exist. When they reached a stall, Liana wrinkled her nose at the rough, simple goods on display. "Your markets are crude," she said coldly. "No elegance, no artistry." Daniel glanced at her. "Function matters more than appearance here. Beauty doesn't keep a ship flying." Liana tilted her chin higher. "On Varion we have both." "And yet," Daniel replied calmly, "your council sent you here to learn from humans." The word stung. She opened her mouth to retort but stopped. For once, she had no answer. Their arguments continued as the day went on. At another stall, Daniel handed her a packet of ration bars. "Try this. It's not palace food, but it'll keep you strong." Liana sniffed the bar with disdain. It looks like compressed soil." Daniel chuckled. "It's efficient. High energy. We eat to live, not to impress." Liana scowled, but reluctantly took a bite. The taste was plain, almost dull. Yet it filled her stomach faster than any delicate dish back home. She hated to admit it, but the human food worked. Trouble arrived when a group of alien raiders stormed the marketplace. Shouts filled the air. Merchants scattered as the raiders waved their weapons, demanding valuables. Liana stiffened. "We must fight." Daniel caught her arm gently but firmly. "Not yet." Her eyes flashed. "You would let them insult us?" "Humans truly are cowards." Daniel looked at her calmly. "Watch." The raiders approached a frightened merchant. Before Liana could step forward, Daniel moved. He didn't draw a weapon. Instead, he stepped between the raiders and the merchant, his stance firm. "We don't want trouble," Daniel said, voice steady. "Take what you need and leave." The raiders laughed. "A human tells us what to do?" Liana's heart pounded. She expected Daniel to back away, but he didn't. His eyes stayed locked on theirs, unblinking, confident. Something in his calm unsettled them. After a tense pause, the raiders cursed under their breath, grabbed a few supplies, and retreated. Liana stared at him in shock. "You didn't fight. You didn't run, you just stood there." Daniel shrugged lightly. "Sometimes strength is in patience, not violence." Her pride burned, but deep inside, respect began to grow. That evening, back on the ship, Liana paced angrily. "You make no sense. One moment you act strong, the next you avoid conflict. Which is it?" Daniel leaned back in his chair, watching her calmly. "Both. Humans fight when we must, but we also know when not to. It's balance." Liana stopped pacing, her chest tight. Balance. That was not a word often spoken on Varian. Her people valued control, superiority, and order, but not balance. "You think your way is better," she said, narrowing her eyes. "I think our way works for us," Daniel answered simply. And maybe, just maybe, it could work for you too. Liana turned away, refusing to answer. But his words sank deep into her mind. The next day, their journey took them near a barren moon where fuel was scarce. Daniel worked to repair a faulty system using scraps and tools. Liana watched silently at first, then asked, "Why not wait for proper parts?" Daniel wiped sweat from his brow. "Because we don't always have proper parts. Humans survive by making do with what we have." He twisted wires together, adjusted circuits, and within minutes the system hummed back to life. Liana stared in disbelief. That should not have worked. Daniel grinned faintly. But it did. For the first time, Liana laughed softly. It startled her, the sound strange to her own ears. Daniel glanced at her, amused. "See? Humans aren't all bad," he said. Her smile faded quickly, but the warmth lingered. That night, Liana sat by the window, staring at the stars. Daniel joined her, sitting a respectful distance away. For a long time, neither spoke. Finally, Liana whispered, "On Varion, I was taught humans were reckless, dangerous, inferior." Daniel looked at her, his eyes steady. "And now?" She hesitated. Pride told her to stay silent. But honesty pushed the words out. "Now I am not certain." Daniel smiled gently. "That's a start." The journey continued, filled with small clashes and quiet moments. Liana mocked human food, yet ate it. She criticized human tools, yet watched Daniel repair everything with them. She called humans weak, yet relied on Daniel's steady courage more than once. Her heart fought against the truth, but her mind could not deny it. Humans were not what she had been told. They were resourceful, brave, and, most dangerous of all, kind. Liana lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling of the small cabin. Her punishment was changing her, and the human she had once despised was becoming something else entirely in her eyes. The cultural clash was far from over, but for the first time, she wondered if perhaps the council's punishment was also her chance to learn something greater than pride. The days aboard the scout ship passed in uneasy rhythm. Liana's sharp words clashed with Daniel's calm answers, yet beneath the surface something was changing. She still carried her pride like armor, but cracks had begun to show. It was in the quiet moments, when Daniel offered her food, or when he worked late repairing the ship, that Liana caught herself watching him. The way his hands moved with steady confidence, the way he never raised his voice even when she insulted him, the way he treated her not like a princess but like a person, it unsettled her. It made her restless, and it frightened her more than any storm. One night, alarms blared. Red lights flashed across the cabin. Daniel rushed to the controls, his face hard. "What is it?" Liana demanded, rising to her feet. "Pirates," Daniel said quickly. "A raiding ship just appeared on scanners. They're locking onto us." Liana's heart raced. "Then we fight." Daniel's fingers flew over the controls. "We can't. Our weapons are too light and their ship is twice our size. Running is our only option." Liana clenched her fists. Running felt like defeat. But she saw the seriousness in Daniel's eyes. He was not afraid for himself, he was afraid for her. The pirate ship fired. The scout ship shook violently. Sparks flew across the cabin. Liana stumbled, and once again Daniel's hand caught her, steady and strong. Her chest tightened at his touch, but she forced herself to focus. "Shields?" "Already dropping," Daniel muttered. He gritted his teeth. "We need cover." Through the viewport, Liana saw a jagged asteroid field ahead. The rocks spun and collided in deadly silence. Entering it was madness. "You can't be serious," she said. Daniel's jaw tightened. "It's our only chance." He dove the ship into the asteroid field. The chase was chaos. Massive rocks spun past them, some close enough to scrape the hull. Daniel weaved through them with skill, his hands moving with precision. Liana gripped the seat, her heart pounding. Another blast struck. The ship shook violently, alarms screaming. "Panels sparked. We're hit!" Daniel shouted. "Fuel lines damaged." Liana's breath caught. "Then we're finished." "No," Daniel said firmly. "Not while I'm here." He adjusted controls, forcing the damaged ship deeper into the asteroid belt. The pirates followed, their weapons still firing. Another impact rocked the ship. A console near Liana burst into sparks. She gasped, stumbling back. The air filled with smoke. Daniel jumped from his chair, rushing to seal the breach. "Stay back!" he ordered. Liana froze. For the first time, she heard true urgency in his voice. Not fear for himself, but fear for her. She wanted to argue, but her body refused. She watched as he threw himself into danger, sealing wires with his bare hands, ignoring burns and sparks. His focus was absolute. His only concern was keeping her alive. Her chest tightened painfully. Why? Why would he risk himself for her? The pirate ship fired again. A blast struck the rear thrusters. The scout ship spun violently, slamming against an asteroid. Liana cried out, thrown to the floor. Pain shot through her shoulder. Daniel rushed to her side instantly. His hand pressed against her arm, steadying her. His eyes met hers, fierce and unwavering. "You're hurt," he said. "It's nothing," she whispered, though her voice trembled. Daniel shook his head. "I won't let anything happen to you." "Do you hear me?" For a moment, everything else faded. The alarms, the shaking, the pirates. All she saw were his eyes, filled with determination. No one, not even her own guards back on Varian, had. The scout ship moved through a calm sector of space, far from the dangers of pirates and storms. For the first time in days, Liana allowed herself to breathe fully. The quiet gave her time to think, though her thoughts were far from peaceful. She sat near the viewport, staring at distant stars. The vast emptiness of space reflected the confusion inside her. Her pride had been wounded and challenged, her expectations about humans shattered. And yet, a strange warmth had begun to grow, one she could not name, though it tugged at her heart relentlessly. Daniel worked at the controls, adjusting course and monitoring sensors. He glanced at her occasionally, noting her silence. There was no judgment in his eyes, only careful observation, as if he were waiting for her to find her own answer. Liana spoke first. "Humans are not what I expected," she said quietly. Daniel's head tilted. "And what did you expect?" "Reckless, weak, foolish." She hesitated, but... "You are none of those things," he gave a faint smile. "I do my best. Humans survive by adapting, learning, and helping each other. That's what we are." Liana's gaze fell to her hands. "I was taught to despise humans, to think them beneath me. Yet you..." She swallowed, unable to finish. Daniel's voice was gentle. "You don't have to finish. Just observe, and maybe in time understand." Liana's chest tightened at his words. Observation and understanding. She had always been in control, always superior. But with him, she was learning humility in the most unexpected way. The next stop was a small asteroid colony. It was a place of rough stone structures and simple living quarters. Humans and aliens worked side by side to extract minerals. Liana had never seen such efficiency without elegance, such harsh living without complaint. Daniel guided her through the colony. "This is how humans make life work, even in the harshest conditions," he explained. Liana observed, her pride bristling, yet her curiosity growing. People worked together without hierarchy or ceremony. They adapted quickly to every problem. And through it all, Daniel moved among them naturally, respected without arrogance. That evening, a sudden quake shook the colony. Mining equipment toppled. Dust filled the air. Liana froze, instinct urging her to flee. Daniel grabbed her arm, steadying her as debris fell around them. "Stay close," he said. His hand was firm, protective, yet not controlling. A large rock threatened a group of workers. Daniel ran forward, pushing the rock aside with incredible strength. Liana's eyes widened. He risked himself again, not because he had to, but because he cared. After the danger passed, Liana looked at him. She could not find words. How could a human, smaller and weaker in her eyes compared to Varian elites, possess such courage, such strength of heart? That night, Daniel and Liana were alone in the small quarters of the colony. Liana could not sleep. She walked to the window, staring at the dark void. Daniel watched her silently, giving her space. "Why do you help me?" she asked finally, voice soft. Daniel leaned back, thoughtful. "Because it matters. Because your life is valuable. And because I don't separate people by titles or species. We are all living, all deserving protection when it's needed." Liana's breath caught. She had never been seen like this before. Not as a princess, not as a jewel, not as an object of duty, but as a person. Someone capable of feeling fear, but also someone worthy of care. Her heart thumped in a strange rhythm. Pride and gratitude collided, confusing her. She wanted to hide it, push it down, but the warmth would not leave her. The days that followed were filled with small lessons. Daniel taught her how to repair minor equipment, how to pilot the scout ship more efficiently, how humans survived in hostile space. Liana resisted at first, snapping at him. insisting she knew more. But slowly she began to learn. She was surprised at how much she enjoyed it. Her mind felt sharp, alive in a way it never had in the palace. She was forced to rely on someone she had once despised, and slowly she began to trust him. One evening, as they repaired the ship together, a sudden warning beep startled them. A small meteor swarm was headed their way. Liana froze. Again? We cannot survive another storm like before. Daniel's hands moved quickly, steadying the controls. We will. Watch carefully this time. Learn how humans adapt. Liana clenched her jaw but followed his instructions. Step by step, she mimicked his movements. The ship shuddered. Alarms screamed, yet under Daniel's guidance they navigated safely. When it was over, she looked at him astonished. We did it? Daniel gave a small grin. Yes. Together. Her chest warmed at the word together. It was not just a word, it was a truth she had been unwilling to admit. That night, Liana could not sleep again. She sat near the window thinking about the past few days. Every lesson, every danger, every shared moment with Daniel had eroded her pride. She had started this journey thinking she would be humiliated. Instead, she had learned something far more profound. She realized that she admired him, not just for his skill but for his heart. His courage, his patience, his unwavering strength. Every touch, every word, every action had shown her a side of humans she had never known. And the thought made her chest ache in a way she could not explain. The next morning, Liana awoke to the sound of Daniel preparing breakfast. The small quarters smelled of simple human food. She hesitated, then joined him. Eat, he said kindly. You'll need energy for the next leg of our journey. She took a bite, tasting the plain but nourishing food. She nodded, not wanting to speak her admiration aloud. Daniel watched her with quiet patience. You're learning quickly, he said. Liana's lips pressed into a thin line. I suppose I am. But inside, she admitted the truth to herself. She was learning more than just skills. She was learning trust. And something even more dangerous, something her pride refused to name. Days turned into weeks. The scout ship traveled through uncharted sectors, and Liana and Daniel became partners in more than name. She followed his instructions, relied on his judgment, and even began to anticipate his moves. She hated to admit it, but she was beginning to care, deeply. One night, during a quiet moment, Daniel reached over to hand her a map of their course. Their fingers brushed lightly. Liana froze. The warmth spread through her chest, leaving her breathless. Liana, Daniel said softly, meeting her eyes. Are you all right? She nodded quickly, looking away. Yes, I'm fine, but her heart betrayed her. She had begun to desire the human, not just as protector, not just as teacher, but as someone whose presence had become necessary to her. As they prepared for the final sector of their journey, Liana sat quietly, reflecting. She had come here as punishment, forced to marry a human she had once despised. Yet now she realized the irony. This human had taught her humility, courage, and trust. He had shown her a world beyond her palace walls, and more dangerously, he had begun to claim her heart. The council had sent her as punishment. But Liana understood now that this journey was transforming her. And when the time came for their union, she would face it with a heart she could no longer control. Her first touch with Daniel had changed everything, and now she was helpless against the pull he had on her. The final sector of their journey loomed ahead, a stretch of uncharted space filled with shimmering nebulae and drifting debris. Liana stared out of the viewport, her silver hair catching the glow of distant stars. She no longer felt fear, only anticipation. For weeks she had followed Daniel's lead, learned from him, and depended on him. What had started as punishment had turned into something she could not have predicted. She had begun to trust him, respect him, and, though she would not say it aloud, she had begun to care. Daniel noticed her thoughtful silence. He had grown accustomed to her pride and sharp words, but he also recognized the subtle change in her. She was no longer just a princess who resisted him. She was a partner, learning and observing, slowly revealing herself in moments of quiet vulnerability. Liana, Daniel said gently, breaking the silence. We are approaching the final waypoint. The council will receive us there. Liana turned her violet eyes toward him, a strange mix of curiosity and apprehension in her gaze. The council? Will they be satisfied? Daniel shrugged. They may have expected a scared, obedient princess. But you've learned. You've survived. You've grown. That's what matters. She bit her lip, thinking of the events that had brought them here. The storms, the pirate attacks, the asteroid fields. The small lessons. The touches that steadied her. The moments when he had risked himself for her safety. Every memory brought an ache to her chest, a longing she could no longer deny. As the ship entered the final sector, a message came through from the council. Their words were formal, ceremonial, but the meaning was clear. The Varian princess and her human escort would be united, and the trial was complete. Liana's heart beat faster. The thought of the official union brought a swirl of emotions: pride, relief, anxiety, and most dangerously, desire. Daniel watched her, sensing the storm of feelings she could not hide. He had not expected to face her heart so directly, yet he had learned enough from her to know she was ready to confront it. The ceremony was simple, yet meaningful. A small chamber on a neutral space station had been prepared. Symbols of both human and Varian cultures adorned the walls. The council's representatives stood at a respectful distance. Liana walked beside Daniel, her steps careful, controlled. But beneath her composure, her heart raced. She remembered the first time his hand had steadied her in the